10 fragrances when it's hot as hell outside. Man. I'm not even going to introduce myself. Hopefully you know me by now, guys. Let's get into this list of 10 fragrances when it's hot as hell outside. Number 10 on my list is Azzaro Chrome Sport. This is a fragrance that is often found in cheapy bins, and I like it because it suits the warm weather really nicely. It has decent performance, but considering its price of usually 30 bucks or so, I think it's worth picking up. Think along the lines of Versace Mano Fresh, but even cheaper. Honestly, the Azzaro line is really good in the summer altogether. Number 9 is the only cologne on this list, I promise. It's Isla Tropicale Privé by Parfums Vintage. Virgin Island water is an amazing tropical fragrance, but it's really not worth the money considering how often you'll need to reapply it. If you live in a very tropical destination with a lot of heat, I don't know how much Creed you want to be wearing in one day. Isla Tropicale and Tropicale Privé, they're both really solid fragrances. Privé is a little bit more potent, maybe a little bit more boozy, but for some reason I got more of that lime as well. It just had more to it overall, and I enjoyed it a lot more. I don't have a bottle of it, sadly. I just have the little spray atomizer, but it's been pretty good so far based on my testing. Sure, you can go with Tommy Bahamas or you can get Gorse if you're in the UK, but I would just say stick to Parfums Vintage because they do clones real well. Platinum Egoiste is next on this list. It's by Chanel. If you haven't heard of it, it's a phenomenal modern fragrance that doesn't really scream summer or high heat, but it's fresh and it lasts all day. And I think that's very important. When it's really hot outside, you want a cologne that'll stick with you, that won't disappear by lunchtime. Now this next one's a bit controversial because it's not a typical citrus fresh fragrance. It's not aquatic in the slightest. But for the daring men out there, I recommend Eau d'Aromas, Armani's Eau d'Arôme. It's a woody, spicy fragrance, but its main notes are orange and ginger. And those are some of my favorite fresh notes. Very zesty, very vibrant, but still masculine and classy. So with this one, it's not your typical high heat cologne where you just douse it on. This one you got to apply a bit more lightly, get to know it on your skin a bit before you really go ham with it. But it's really cool. I like it in the heat. I don't know why. Maybe someone else does. Comment below if you know that fragrance and you like it. But just because it's a woody spicy doesn't mean you can't wear it when it's hot outside, because I have. It's a good one. Guys, it's too hot outside. I gotta go inside. This is killing me. Now we can talk, guys. Now that my head isn't overheating, I won't recommend any more woody spices for you guys. These next 6 fragrances are all more on your traditional summer vibes. Whether that means citrus fragrances, aquatics, things like that. But these are all ones that I would recommend when it's really hot outside. They'll actually last a little bit. Number 6 by Tom Ford is Neroli Portofino Forte. Great fragrance, really cool gold plate. Now, if you've been to a Sephora, you've probably seen the Tom Ford bottles, those cool little small rectangles that look like they cost a ton of money, and they do. Neroli Portofino by Tom Ford is in that green bottle. It's a really nice looking presentation, but it just doesn't last very long. Forte is nice because it smells a lot like the original, but it lasts long. Of course, you do have to pay for a premium. It is more expensive than the original, but if you like the DNA, if you like Neroli, it's a no-brainer. You gotta get that fragrance. That gold plate is mwah. But if $250 is too much for you to spend on a fragrance, you can still stick with the Tom Ford line and just go with Grey Vetiver Eau de Toilette, which is my number 5 fragrance. What I like about Grey Vetiver is it has a lot of citrus, more so than the parfum version. An eau de toilette concentration simply means there's more perfumer's alcohol in it, less oils, so it has more vibrance to it. And there's also the added citrus notes that really make it very summer friendly. Vetiver is a great earthy green note. So this is a fragrance that has legs. It'll carry itself. Technically speaking, the eau de parfum has maybe an extra hour of performance based on my testing, but I don't think it's worth it. I think the EDT just suits the summer a lot better, and it smells so classy and clean that even if you did apply too much of it, when it's really hot out, you'll smell like a boss. At number 4, featuring this beautiful chandelier, is Acqua di Parma Colonia Pura. This is one of the newest Colonia flankers. In fact, I think it is the newest. I never claimed to be an expert, guys. What I like about Colonia Pura is its simplicity. It has less of that slightly oak mossy type of heaviness that the original had. And it doesn't have the lavender, spicy barbershop quality of Essenza, but Pura seems to be the purist's fragrance. Performance isn't amazing, so you do have to reapply it, but it smells really good, so I would reapply it no problem. And I'll go to Parma's prices at the higher level. They're not crazy expensive, especially when you compare it to some of the creeds out there. It's still very affordable for the most part. But I know you guys, some of you aren't willing to spend that coin, which is why my next recommendation is a cheapie, L'Odyssée Pour Homme Summer Edition by Issey Miyake. Now, it really doesn't matter what version of this fragrance you get. Either way, you'll have a really compliment-getting summer fragrance that seems like it would be very simplistic and boring, but it really isn't. L'Odyssée Pour Homme was a fragrance that was beloved by so many dudes out there, myself included, because it was one of my first fragrances I ever purchased. With time, it has gone through its changes, which I tend to embrace because a lot of those changes materialized into really cool flankers. And this one is no exception. Some people will talk about the kiwi note in this fragrance. I guess it's there. There's more of a kind of a fruitiness to it, which makes it even more likable. I don't really get a specific kiwi quality to it, but what I do get is a phenomenal summer fragrance that works no matter how hot it gets. And I would wear the original L'Odyssée when it was like 50 degrees Celsius outside. That's like 200 degrees Fahrenheit. It's summer. Summer's in the name. How can you go wrong? But number 2 is a fragrance that I can't see anyone hating.
Try me, bitch.
And it's Mugler Cologne by Mugler. Now, a huge disclaimer with this one. I'm not recommending it because it lasts a long time. When I made this list, I wasn't thinking about what fragrances last in the heat. No, these are fragrances to wear in the heat. Some of them will last the whole day, and that's why I put them on the list. But colognes like Mugler Cologne are amazing because no matter how much your skin heats up, the fragrance will still smell really good. You probably will have to reapply. Some people get amazing performance with this one, and I have no idea how. But if you buy one of those big bottles, you can just spray yourself all day. You don't need to think, you don't need to worry about how much did I apply earlier? Is it gonna be too much? It's never too much with Mugler Cologne. It's amazing, it's a great fragrance. If you like Mugler Cologne, smash like. I have an honorable mention that I wanna mention. Wood Neroli by Bulgari. This is a fragrance that blew me away when I sampled it at the airport. But unfortunately, I only sampled it. I had an amazing first impression, but I didn't get to wear it over an extensive period of time. So I can't really blow it up too much, boost it up and hype it up. Or would I want to, because then the Royal fam will clear the stock at their local Dillard's or wherever you buy fragrances. But what I can say is, as far as first impressions go, this is a really good fragrance, guys. Even though woods are in the name and it is a bit woody, it's a summer fragrance through and through. Amazing performance. It lasted my entire 6-hour flight, and I applied it 2 hours before I boarded. 8 hours, math. And honestly, it kind of impressed me more than Neroli Portofino Forte. And especially when you factor in the price difference of those two fragrances, it's pretty amazing what Bulgari did with this one. Don't sleep on Wood Neroli, guys. But don't take my word for it because it was just a first impression, okay? But the moment you've all been waiting for, my number 1 fragrance when it's hot as hell outside. You know, I won't keep you in suspense for too long, guys, but I will say this is a flanker that gets ignored a little bit, but it's one of my favorite fragrances when it's really hot outside. It's an aquatic, it's salty, so it really works when your skin is super duper hot and your fragrance gets obliterated on your skin, becomes all a sweet hotness. Not in this case. The saltwater feel just smells so good, so refreshing. My favorite fragrance when it's hot as hell outside, Bulgari Aquamarine. Atlantique is a little more versatile. Amara is a little more popular. But Marine, when it's hot outside, give it a go. Now, if you want to know more fragrances that last a long time in the summertime, I made a list of that earlier on if you want to check that out. But this is just my opinion, guys. Get your own. До свидания.